Good morning, Mr. Easter, Mr. Gomez. So what we are going to do this morning is go over some data. So I know, first of all, you guys have been doing an awesome job this week, especially on the All-Star tournament. So give yourself kudos for that. It's been really good. But in looking at the data, so I met with Ms. Jones earlier this week and we were looking at the data, and there were a couple of student or standards or TEKS that we looked at that we thought we should kind of just review. I know this is our last ditch effort before going into the STAR next week, but just as a quick review. So what we did is we looked at the scores from cycle 2, and then we kind of compared them with what we see in All-Star Week. Y'all follow me so far? So we were at approaches 53.26%, meets 15.22%, masters 3.26%, and does not meet was 46.74%. So who remembers our overall campus goals? Approaches.
It was at approaches overall 70.
75? 77.
77%. I know.
Overall approaches is 77%, meets is 36%, and masters is 15. Yes, 15%. So we have up on the board here just from the All-Star earlier this week, and we see that the scores are going up, right? But as you look at that, Mr. Easter, you're doing most of the math right now, but Mr. Gomez, please feel free to contribute. What are some of the strengths that you have seen in terms of your students growing from cycle 2 up until now?
The strengths are, for instance, adding and subtracting decimals. Just repetition of them. Doing them over and over, being able to spiral the lesson.
Okay.
And so,
Okay, so repetition, being able to spiral the lessons. You want to add anything, Mr. Gomez?
Just piggyback off what he said, just doing that every day.
Okay.
Having these all-star questions with the exit ticket, getting the data, we're seeing who's getting what and who's not. So it's leading us to the next day to, what's the word I'm looking for, change in instruction.
Reteach. Absolutely, and that's really what it's all about. But you're saying, you mentioned something about the exit tickets, being able to get that data every day.
That real-time data
Yeah.
right there. And so you can see, and having small data conferences with the kids.
Oh, I like that.
And that kind of just motivates them to do better, right? Okay, I didn't do so hot this day, but I have tomorrow to redo it and regain my composure and my confidence, right?
They're taking ownership of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I like that. So it just allows them, allows our students the opportunity to own their own learning. Okay. So that's something we want to think about incorporating from the beginning for next year.
Yes.
Because I do like the student data conferences, because when they see where they function and they know.
As soon as they submit it, it's like,
they want to know.
What is my score?
Yes. And because as soon as they get a 100, they're like running to me or Ms. Freshwood, like want that instant gratification. But I think if we start at the beginning of the year incorporating that, that will definitely help them take ownership all year. So that's great in terms of strengths. What are some of the weaknesses?
So for instance, like 5.4H, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think that is
Adding, or is it adding?
no, multiplying and
5.4H is
perimeter and area and volume. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So with that, I would say the kids, it's trying to do it without the reference chart, right? And
Okay.
so they're trying to remember all these formulas on, okay, so volume is length times width times height, And sometimes the kids get confused with, okay, area, which is just length times width. And I would just say it's just a not using your resources at that moment in time.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
That's
So
just
don't
right.
they have the
The reference chart? Yes, they do have a reference chart. You know, this year we use the Eureka, and inside their books, the consumable, it has a reference chart, and we also printed out grade level
okay.
reference charts
Okay.
too.
So then that's also an area of growth for us, right?
Mhm.
Teaching them how to use
Yeah.
those references and the tools that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's your plan for that for the next couple of days in terms of helping them do that?
Just kind of going through it together again. You know, just almost reading it so the kids know what they're looking at, right? Because often people, you know, kids get reference charts like, oh, here, this is your reference chart,
Sit
and
to the side.
I don't know what it is, you know,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna just put it over here or use
Yeah.
it to hide my answers from the next person,
Right.
you know? So
Yeah.
they don't often, you know.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. So we really want to encourage that's not something they have to memorize,
Mhm.
that they can actually use what they have to their advantage. Okay, so that was also a good point. What are some of the trends, Mr. Gomez?
Trends, I'll let you two go first.
Okay, you just sounded like you had something to say, so I wanted. So what are some of the trends?
Again, I mean, some of the
Like
stuff I
some
kind
up
of
and down, or something you want to.
like. The trends are slightly moving up. So after every like all-star like we taken and things like that, the kids have done significantly better than they were tested before, right?
Yes.
And so the trend is that we're on a positive trajectory.
We're on the up.
Yeah, we're on the up and up, right? And you know, as long as
We're trending upwards.
yeah, as long as we can keep that same energy, you know, I mean, we'll be unstoppable, all right?
So I'm gonna challenge you both here just a little bit, because when I look at it, I would agree, but how do we, because those are just like 1 and 2 questions.
Yeah.
1 to 2 questions. So when it comes to the star, of course, that's a
Are
little
you-
bit
Are you
longer.
talking about the exit tickets?
Yes.
Okay.
So when it comes to the star itself,
Mhm.
that's a little bit more, that's a little longer. So how do we keep that trending upwards when now we have more questions to address
Yeah.
at a certain period of time, right?
Yeah. So I would say with that, like, star is going to be like 36 questions, right? And we give the kids 4 hours to answer 36 questions. So within these exit tickets, which is 2 questions, and then the all stars range from 8 to 10.
Got it.
10 questions. So we give the kids probably about 40 minutes
Okay.
to work that out, so they can pace themselves efficiently throughout that. And so that's how we kind of keep it going, so it don't give them time to lag, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
here I'm accustomed to working, so we building that stamina.
Yes,
Then also,
That's
just
good.
letting them know how much time they got left. So we
which
give
is also built in.
yeah, we give
Yeah.
them 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, now y'all got 35, 30. You know, just go down.
Okay. All right, so that's good. All good feedback. So let's look at one of our questions now. You saw here that 5.3K is also one of our high impact teams. And you go ahead and tell us what that is over, Mr. Gomez.
5.3K.
Yes.
Addition and subtraction of decimals.
Okay, and so then I'm referencing this, the data that's up there on the board is for all of the students. And so this is individual students and how they answered. So I selected this one so we could kind of dive in a little bit deeper to kind of see what is our next step. So when we look at 5.3K, question number 3, the majority of them got the correct answer.
Yeah.
So that's like 73.8%. So that's pretty high, right?
Mhm.
But then when we look at question 4, and I think I gave you the question
yeah, I
there,
have
Mr.
question
Easter.
4 here.
When we look at question 4, now we have 40.48% who got the correct answer, and then another portion, which is pretty significant, right? Like 21% selected J, and then we have split between G and H with 19% each.
Mhm.
So what do you think caused, such a significant difference in the answer choices?
I would say the comprehension of the question, right?
Okay.
So it's on how each kid interpret this question, because it says, what is the distance between the park bench and the fountain? And normally when we hear stuff like that, it's asking you to kind of compare, right? So from here to here, what's the distance between that, right? This is this far and this is that far. I want to subtract, right? So most of the kids thought subtraction when they first looked at this question.
Okay.
Right, but if you look at the numbers it's 16 and 3/4 and 9 and 1/2, right? But the answer choices are 26, 25, and so those numbers are larger than both of those numbers. So you can infer, right? Hey, I'm going to add, right? But when kids got to this, some kids probably had the misconception. All right, so with G and H, right? We had like a 50-50 split between that. Like
Absolutely. 19.05% for both of them.
Right, okay. And so most of the kids came here and they only added the whole numbers up, right? And when you added 16, and then they just guessed on the fraction part, right? And then a lot of the other kids, when it came to J, they did it correctly. They did everything correctly, but when it came down to when you got the denominator, you added them together, and you realized it was an improper fraction. So the improper fraction gave you another whole, which is a mixed number. They added that whole to 26, right? So when they added 16 to 9 had 25, they added that extra whole to get 26.
Got it.
They didn't worry about the rest of the fraction because it was like, okay, I already converted it and it gave me one whole, right?
Yeah.
And so they didn't finish on their conversion chart of how to do it.
Okay. So how would you address that? Do you see that as, because quite a few of them were guessing, right?
Yeah.
So then would that be procedural? Would you go back and
Yeah. So you'll go back and you'll touch on mainly how to get denominators and how to convert improper fractions into mixed numbers. Right.
So you said the like denominators.
Yeah.
And what was the second part?
Converting improper fractions into mixed numbers.
Okay. Converting. Okay. So is that something you guys have covered or reviewed?
Yeah.
That's something you retaught based on this? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So overall, that was good feedback. I just want to end with what are our next steps. I did hear you guys say that instant feedback from the exit tickets and even the All-Star just allows you to go back and reteach. So with the reteach, is that done in stations? Is it done in small group?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So everything these past couple weeks been operated out of a small group. So So we'll start with a little mini lesson. So that's the little whole group. And from the mini lesson, we'll break it off into small groups where, as the kids who need help with that little mini lesson. So it's like I do, you do, not I do, we do, you do. It's just okay, I'm going to do this problem to refresh your memory.
Right.
I'll keep that up there. Here's the anchor chart of the steps, blase, and then I'm going through and I'm going to give you another question. And you do that on your own, right?
Okay.
And if you need help type of deal, it's kind of informal picking, hey, you need help, meet me at the table, meet me at the back table.
Absolutely.
Meet me at the back table. All right, you guys, you start on your All-Star, right? And I'm working with these guys for a little bit. And then, once 5-10 minutes goes by, hey, you guys start on your All-Star.
Okay.
Get ready.
You have anything to add to that, Mr. Gomez?
Pretty much same thing, it's just small groups, really getting those kids that are struggling, or we're trying to push to the next level, right? So if we're getting them to meets or masters, a small group really hammer that down.
Okay.
Same thing with approaches kids, just everybody getting their turn in a small group with their teacher group.
All right. So this has been really beneficial for me, and so I appreciate the feedback. How do y'all feel about going into next week?
A little anxious,
Yeah.
but
understand.
don't be anxious about anything,
Nothing.
right? And you know, I'm just prepared to shock the world.
I
Right.
think we all are
Yes,
this Easter.
yes.
I believe you guys can do it. I've seen just the growth, and we're gonna get them all excited, and we're gonna do this. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you.